Thank you very much indeed. And would you join with me in just once again thanking all of our speakers this morning who've given us a range of very interesting insights. Businesses who work all over the world on all sorts of innovation, new, dynamic, exciting projects. And thank you very much to all of them for sharing their expertise here with us this morning. So if you'll join with me in giving them another round of applause. Now, in just a few minutes, we are going to have a slight change to the schedule that you might have been expecting. But just while we're waiting for your surprise guest, I am going to invite this morning's speakers to come up onto the stage, and we will, I'm glad to say, have a few moments to hear some questions from the floor. So, gentlemen, if you could briefly come up and join me on the stage here. Now, when you ask your question, could you please raise your hand and also tell me where you're from, what country you're from, and what company you represent, please. Okay. So who has our first question then? We've heard a lot of exciting ideas this morning. Anybody with the first question? Gentleman over there, and there should be a microphone coming to you, I hope. And if you can just tell us where you're from before your question, please. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Edens. I'm the Managing Director for a Canadian independent operating internationally, Canadian Natural. And I'm Canadian, I'm British, I'm working here in the UK, putting talent around the world. I really enjoyed the discussion this morning around the growth of oil in the next decade. And I just wondered whether the panel could comment on why the UK basin is actually not capturing that growth and is in a state of decline.
Okay. Secretary of State, first say to you on that. I've got a pointed question.
Well, I suspect the answer is primarily in the field of geology and economics. But you know, the simple fact is that the projections show, you know, because most of the easy to access fields have already been heavily utilized, that you're on a downward trajectory. But you know, we do believe that our North Sea resources have enormous future. We want to do what we can to stimulate it. There is a lot of potential in the more difficult to access areas west of Shetland. Those are beginning to be developed. And as I said in my introduction, we want to try to ensure that the tax regime does encourage rather than discourage future exploration and development.
But the suggestion from the gentleman there, though, is that somehow companies are missing a trick. I mean, do you accept that, Bob?
Well, I think the UK is one of the most explored hydrocarbon basins in the world, and it's got seismic shot all over it, and as Vince said, the great potential still lies west and north of Shetland on the Atlantic margin. So there is a great future out there, and we project Britain will be producing substantial quantities of oil to 2050, but it is a mature basin, and so the challenge is to make sure the smaller pools around the infrastructure also get developed. But it's not at the life cycle of, say, an Angola or Brazil. It is more mature.
Okay, second question, perhaps from that side of the room, if we could. Oh, shy bunch over there. The lady here, if we can, at the front.
Thank you. My name is Liv Monica Stubolt. I work for Kværner in Norway. We're an EPC company. I listened to several of the speakers, and perhaps particularly Mr. Andrew Gould, that perhaps the oil and gas industry is very innovative in terms of technology, but conservative in the way we run the business. Could you possibly expand a bit on how we can learn from other industries in the way we run the business? You've often made a point of that, Mr. Gould, that we could look to aerospace industry, you mentioned automotive industry. Do we do things in a way that could be more efficient? Thank you.
I think this is going to be really controversial. The tiering that the automobile industry has gone through, the tiering that the oil and gas, the aerospace industry has gone through, has not really happened yet in oil and gas. And it will happen. It'll happen over time. It is obvious that it is happening with the independents, and it is to a certain extent happening in the IOCs and the NOCs, but it has a lot further to go. But my point here is that we are so short of resources. As Bob said in his presentation, projects are becoming so complex that everybody should be doing what they're really good at and not trying to judge everything themselves. So, you know, yes, I think we can work a lot smarter over time. And I do think that, by the way, that the North Sea has been and will continue to be a little bit of crucible of all this, because it's not going to happen offshore Tanzania or offshore, offshore in Sulawesi or something in Indonesia. It's going to get done in a place where you have, like the Gulf of Mexico or the North Sea, where you have ready logistics. And I think it'll happen, but it's slow. I agree, it's slow.
And Andrew Brown, I mean, why do you think this industry has been slow to make some of the changes that others have?
I'm not sure we've been that slow. I think we're globalizing. So, I mean, in Shell, we have now more enterprise framework agreements with various suppliers. I mean, you don't build a floating LNG or a gas-to-liquids plant in isolation. At the very early stage, you have your relationship with the key contractors that understand your technology and processes. I think with the service companies, we've had a little bit of a relationship on who has the technology. I think that's a relationship that can mature over time. But I think our relationship with the main EPC contractors is one where we are working together to develop these mega projects in a very constructive way. So,
a bit of a quibble with the old-fashioned charge?
No, yeah, I think certainly. I mean, if you look at some of the projects we're doing, this is not, I don't think we're behind this, we're at the forefront of technology in many, many areas.
Okay, thank you. And I think we've got time to squeeze in one more question. There was somebody over there, a gentleman there, please. And again, if you could tell us what company you're from.
My name is Paul Booth from SABIC. I reside in the northeast of England. Again, I really appreciated the inputs from everybody this morning. We talk about innovation. One area that we haven't talked about is the solutions to the carbon problem, particularly whether it's algae or inorganic chemistry. I'd be interested in the views on that, because if we solve that problem, we've made it's a huge game changer. And the other point on the back of that is, if we've done that, we've talked a lot about searching for, to the far ends of the globe for new sources of energy. We're sitting on 3,000 million tons of coal. If gasified is bigger than Qatari gas fields, it's right here. So if we solve the carbon problem, there are other solutions that we don't have to look too far for. Interested in some comments on that.
Okay, Secretary of State, to you first on that.
Well, I think, in the UK, we see the carbon agenda being driven in several respects. One is, if you like, old renewables, which is maintaining the nuclear power sector. The other is new renewables, which we primarily see in terms of offshore wind and potentially marine. A lot of efforts now going into that. A few months ago, I launched a new, what we call Catapult, which is a concentrated research centre in Glasgow, which will pair up with NAREC in Northumberland for the testing centre. So I think we see the new technology for new renewables as being, a lot of that being based here. Alongside it, and this is in relation to your reference to coal, the carbon capture and storage is potentially a way of dealing with that. The Australians, I think, are probably further advanced than anybody. We're trying to pursue it here at the moment, primarily in relation to gas, because the first attempt to get a pilot in relation to coal proved extremely expensive. But we do recognise the vast potential there, and we want to be part of it.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, Andrew Brown, Andrew Gould, Bob Dudley, and Secretary of State for Business, thank you very much indeed for joining me here on the stage.